Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, or good night. My name is M, and thank you very much for joining me. And in this video, we're going to take a look at some of my, favorite records, essential records. They're all going to be jazz, and they'll be specifically my favorites. But as you'll come to find out over time, I have a lot of records, So I'm not going to put them all in a video, bore you with that. Like, have you ever gotten a video from someone and they're like, here's a video that I think you'll like. This will be great. You should watch it. And then you open the link and it's like 15 minutes long. And you're like, wow, my friend must be absolutely delusional. I am not watching that. So instead, I'll record a bunch of other videos, and you can watch them at your leisure. In any event, let's get this started. First, of course, we're going to set the mood. It's a little candle work. I could just use a lighter, but where's the fun in that? Why did I put the gunpowder side in my mouth? Oh my god. Just do this already. Delightfully archaic about matches. I'd like to say I did that on purpose to match the theme, vinyl. But I don't have that much foresight. Well, there we are, aren't we? Okay, without further ado, let's jump into it. So, I'm going to go ahead and get everybody's favorite out of the way, and that is Frank Sinatra. This is his Strangers in the Night album, one of his most popular this side of Come Fly With Me. You might recognize a lot of the tracks, including the title track, Strangers in the Night. Let's see here. Let's see. The most popular ones, opening track, Strangers in the Night. There's The Summer Wind, my personal favorite. I don't really actually like a lot of Frank Sinatra's music. I'm just going to go ahead and out myself there immediately. I think he's a bit much. Yeah. But he's really good at what he does, and he's the face of jazz. So let's take a look here. Strangers in the Night, which, as classic. Why not? The Summer Wind, beautiful track. If you want to feel romantic and look out from your widow's peak and worry about when your fiance is coming home, and also secretly hoping that they don't, that's the song for you. All or Nothing at All, that's a classic too. I'm not sure that his rendition of this is the best, but it's definitely a favorite. And you know what? Really good one here. My Baby Just Cares for Me. Gorgeous song. All around good guy. A bit much, but he's cool nonetheless. So, what else have we got here? Here's one. Even if you're not into jazz, I guarantee you've seen this album cover at least once. John Coltrane's Blue Train. Blue Train has a special part of my heart. It's one of the first albums I bought, and admittedly, I jumped into this hobby because of the art. Of course, there's an argument to be made about the music and listening to how great it sounds and all the rest of it. But the thing that really called my attention was I was shopping for some art for my room. And I don't know, album covers from the older eras. They just, look at this. You can't even make up how good that is. This album, however, is probably one of my absolute favorites. It's an early record, and Blue Train, when Blue Train hits, I'll link it down below, you'll hear it. When that song comes on, you're just ready to go. This is a hard bop album, so it's a kind of jazz that's a little more aggressive and upbeat. Moment's Notice is pretty good too. That's the second track. Feels like you're on a train uptown, or you're just really busy, just rush hour. Great feeling. This one, it's not as highly regarded, arguably, as his album A Love Supreme, which I hope to get my hands on that soon enough. I can't find a good enough pressing. They just came out with them, but it's impossible to find right now. But eventually, strongly recommend this one. Let's see here. Yikes. Next favorite album. Picked this up recently. I actually didn't know the title track. You know those songs that you hear everywhere and you're like, you just don't know the name of the song. This next album actually has something like that going for it. This album is called Saxophone Colossus, and it's by the Sonny Rollins Quartet. Credited on this album are Sonny Rollins on the tenor sax, Max Roach on drums, Tommy Flanagan on piano, Doug Watson's on bass. This is a really good album. So, favorite track off of this is actually the opening track. It was a song I was looking for a very, very long time. The song is called St. Thomas. And I guarantee you, if you listen to the song, I'm sure you've heard it too. It's a song that has the power of putting you in a good mood. It just feels like a Sunday. I don't know if that makes sense, but not like the ice cream. I guess it could feel like that too, but this feels like a Sunday afternoon where everything is going great. And even if you're having a shitty week, there's something about this song that just right back up. There's also the song You Don't Know What Love Is, a classic jazz standard that I'm sure you've also heard. And there's a very interesting twist on Mac the Knife on this one. It's called Mortad. Mortad. It's from a German musical called The Three Penny Opera. And basically, Mortad is a version of Mac the Knife. Only the entrance just keeps going on forever and ever and ever for some reason. I dig it. I'm here for it. Saxophone Colossus. All instrumental, all around great artist. Let's see. You know what? Speaking of Sundays, I have another Sunday album. Jazz enthusiasts might roll their eyes at this one because it's kind of a novelty album. Well, what's life if you're not going to be honest, right? This next one's by Dave Brubeck, whose most famous album is probably, one of the most important albums in jazz anyway. It's called Take 5. And eventually, I'll get my hands on that. But for today, I have his much lesser well-known and probably a bit cheesy album. Dave Digs Disney. You got Donald Duck, got Mickey Mouse, got Pluto hopping over, and you got Dave. Dave's like in a world of his own. Dave doesn't care. Dave's fine. So what is this album? Well, this is actually a first press. Got it for like $4, I think, which, I mean, this album isn't like worth thousands or anything, but it was still nice to get an original copy. So this album, it has Disney standards. There's a lot of Disney songs that later became jazz standards, like Someday My Prince Will Come. That's one of the biggest ones. When You Wish Upon a Star, Alice in Wonderland, the theme, Alice in Wonderland, I'm sure you remember it. I don't have to sing it for you. So those became jazz standards later on. But this album kind of puts his own spin on it. So you got the tracks, Alice in Wonderland as the opening track. You have Give a Little Whistle as the second. Hi Ho. Yes, really, like hi ho, hi ho. Da 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 da. Hi ho, hi ho, hi ho. I don't remember this. I don't remember the lyrics. I don't. When You Wish Upon a Star is on here. Fantastic. Someday My Prince Will Come, of course. Like every jazz artist has done some variation of that, I guarantee you. And then one song, I believe that's from Snow White. I honestly couldn't tell you. Ironically, you would think I'd be a Disney adult by now. Anyway. So, why this album? Why Dave Digs Disney? Well, this, from beginning to end, is a great brunch album. It's a great Sunday album. It's a great weeknight dinner album. When you want to keep things really light, you don't want to think too much. And it's a, when you're having a dinner party, you could play this in the background. And people will be like, hang on, is that hi ho? And you'll be like, yeah, get on my level, bro. Dave Digs Disney. Great. This album is one of my absolute favorites. It's a Miles Davis Sextet album. If I'm not mistaken, this was either the first and last time that Miles Davis played with, that John Coltrane played with Miles Davis, or this is just the last time that John Coltrane played with Miles Davis. There's a subtle difference in there, but there's a difference nonetheless. In any event, this album, Someday My Prince Will Come. On the album cover here, we have Miles Davis's wife, Frances. She was a dancer and, I don't know, pretty famous woman in her own right. Their story is really tragic, but at least in this album cover, we can look at the fairy tale. It's a beautiful cover. It's really eye-catching. I picked this one up only recently because I wanted this album in mono instead of stereo, just because I heard it sounds better that way. So, like I mentioned earlier, Someday My Prince Will Come is something of a jazz standard. You'll hear Chet Baker, you'll hear Bill Evans, you'll hear many, many, many artists, playing Someday My Prince Will Come. So, this album, it's a sextet, features Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Hank Mobley, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy Cobb. Songs on here include Someday My Prince Will Come, Old Folks, Francing, Dread Dog, T.O., and I Thought About You. I would strongly recommend blindly jumping into this album from beginning to end. It's just a masterpiece. But if I have to take two standout tracks, listen to, of course, Someday My Prince Will Come and Old Folks. Fantastic record. And of course, there's the art. All of these old jazz records have beautiful, beautiful photos of these artists. And I don't know, there's just something so special about them. Yeah, strongly recommend. Let's see here. Here's one that's a little bit newer. I think you'll dig it nonetheless. This next one is Swing When You're Winning by Robbie Williams. Robbie Williams, you probably know him from that one song. What was it called? Rock DJ? And anyway, he used to be in a boy band in the UK called Take That, and then he kind of spun off and did his own solo work, pop music, things like that. I don't know much about his pop stuff, but he came out with a couple of really good jazz albums. Swing When You're Winning. Yeah. So, what makes this album special? God, let me count the ways. So, first of all, he does all of the songs on this album in a rendition of like Frank Sinatra or other big band artists, and so the variations that he chooses are phenomenal. But it's the features that are pretty mind-blowing too. So he sings I Will Talk and Hollywood Will Listen, Mac the Knife, Something Stupid, Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me, It Was a Very Good Year, Straighten Up and Fly Right, Will'd You Ever, Mr. Bojangles, One for My Baby, Things, Ain't That a Kick in the Head, They Can't Take That Away From Me, Have You Met Miss Jones, and Me and My Shadow. So, for some reason, this sleeve doesn't give credit to the duets that he has on here, but the duets are something else. Just to give you an example, just of how unexpected this is, the song Something Stupid, he does that cover as duet with no more and no less than the actress Nicole Kidman. Seriously, like, he does a song with Nicole Kidman, and it sounds good. What? Standout tracks from this album. I mean, I love the whole thing, but I think there's a few spots where I just kind of drop off. You know, not really my favorite, but the songs that I do love really take over. Mac the Knife, his version of Mac the Knife is genius. He uses one of the oldest variations of the lyrics. That song's been sung in so many different ways, but his variation of it is great. Something Stupid, of course, if nothing more than the novelty of having Nicole Kidman on your song. What? Mr. Bojangles, powerful. His cover of Mr. Bojangles is powerful. Ain't That a Kick in the Head? Lots of fun. And They Can't Take That Away From Me. I mean, make your own. I recommend listening to the album. Draw your own conclusions, but those are some of my favorites. This next album is pretty important because it is the album that really got me back into jazz. I'd always kind of been into jazz in a very cursory way, but this album really put me over the top. It's a vocal album, which is interesting because I've come to find out a lot of people who love jazz don't seem to take to vocal albums very well. But, you know, screw them. Love this album. Chet Baker Sings. This album is an absolute classic. Well, it's Chet Baker's vocal debut. Man had a very sordid life, but this album kind of comes before all of that. So his lyrics really reflect it too. Well, not his lyrics, but what he's chosen to sing anyway. The whole album has a kind of melancholy optimism. I know that sounds like at worst pretentious and at best confusing, but you really hear it coming through on the album. I mean, the opening song, That Old Feeling, it's very wistful, very romantic. Then you got It's Always You, a song about longing and really wanting to be with that special someone. Like Someone in Love, this song's been covered plenty of times, actually. Interestingly enough, even Bjork covered it. That was certainly something. My Ideal's gorgeous. My Ideal is a very wow, it's a very idealistic song anyway, about, the kind of girl, the kind of guy, the kind of anything you want to love. I've Never Been in Love Before, My Buddy, But Not For Me. But Not For Me is probably my favorite song on this album. It's all about, springtime, and, you hear everybody's in love, and Cupid, and Valentine's. But Not For Me. Time After Time's gorgeous. I Get Along Without You Very Well, kind of like a rejection song, but playfully sarcastic. And, there's My Funny Valentine. His version of My Funny Valentine is haunting. Like, it is just like, it reaches inside and just twists you up. Strongly recommend that one. The Thrill Is Gone, I Fall in Love Too Easily, and Look for the Silver Lining. I love Look for the Silver Lining. It's, no matter if you're having one of those down on your luck, shit on your shoes days, Look for the Silver Lining is just, it'll pick you up no matter what. Honestly, I was gonna mention some of the standout songs, but I think this album might be more or less perfect from beginning to end. If I had to absolutely choose my favorites, Look for the Silver Lining and, well, But Not For Me. Yeah, definitely give it a listen. It's gorgeous. Chet Baker sings. Just love the art on it too. Like, are you kidding me? There's something about that classic cool that's just inimitable. Absolutely beautiful. So this last album is definitely an album that you've seen before. It's definitely one of the most important jazz albums. Well, forget jazz. It's basically one of the most important albums of all time. And I think it's essential just across the board, and so do a lot of people. So without further ado, let's take a look. Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. To say that this album is influential just across the board is the understatement of the century. It is probably the jazz album, and it's beautiful, and it's kind of like one of those stars aligned kind of recordings, because the artists who are on this album just really, they caught lightning in a bottle with this one. Like, of course you have Miles Davis, but you also have Cannonball Adderley and Paul Chambers. You have James Cobb, John Coltrane. You have Bill Evans, you have Wynton Kelly. They all came together to make this album, and this kind of jazz is called modal jazz. There's a lot of improvisation, and it has a very like a very blue feeling to it. It's a little hard to describe, but you'll know exactly what I mean when you play it. The liner notes for this album was actually written by Bill Evans, the famous jazz pianist, and he writes, "There's a Japanese visual art in which artist is forced to be spontaneous. He must paint on a thin stretched parchment with a special brush and a black water paint in such a way that as an unnatural or interpreted stroke would destroy the line or break through the parchment." skipping ahead. Group improvisation is a further challenge. Aside from the weighty technical problem of collective coherent thinking, there is the very human and even social need for sympathy among members to bend for the most common result. Bill Evans, he likens the music that they made on this album to harmony, to basically happy accidents as an art form. And, it's just incredible. So, first track, So What? If you could make a shrug into a song, that would be it. That song is a collective shrug away of all your problems. Freddie Freeloader, we don't know who that is, but you hear the song and you think of some uptown city slicker who's just having a great day. Blue and Green, beautiful song, it's, one of those sundown, turn down the lights tracks. All blues, of course. I'm sure you've heard it also. But not to disregard all blues. But I think the real standout on this album is Flamenco Sketches. Everyone on the album just comes together to play on it. It opens with bass. It opens with Paul Chambers on bass. And Bill Evans comes right in with the piano for the first few notes. Switches over to Miles. In the middle, John Coltrane kind of gets his own sax solo or extended set, whatever it's called. And, I can't say it enough. On a personal note, this is one of the first albums I ever got. Ever. And I got it at Urban Outfitters, as you do in 2010. It's the Sony Columbia pressing in stereo. Also, all that to say, I can kind of put my money where my mouth is with this one. So, like I mentioned earlier, I got the Urban Outfitters copy on stereo. Sounds great. Sounds beautiful. I mean, I keep saying Urban Outfitters, but it's really Columbia as the label. But then, I bought it again. Same album, same music, but instead of being in stereo, it's in mono. There's a kind of argument with Miles Davis's music, is mono better than stereo? It's not unlike the Beatles. I think it's all a matter of personal taste, but I'd rather listen to it any way I can. But wait, there's more. The most recent acquisition I have of this album. It's a box set. This is by Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. What does that mean? Well, they specialize in making audiophile grade vinyl, by any means necessary, from the original master tapes. So this is one of those copies. This is a vinyl pressed. It's across 2 discs to really give the music room to play. 245 RPM discs, and they're from the original master tapes. It's a box set, and comes with the original art inside and everything. I'll probably do a separate unboxing for that if you guys are interested. Comes with all the songs, and it's hand numbered, I believe, out of 20,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will, but I have 19,213. So, how many copies of this album does a person need? I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing for free. Later this year, they're coming out with another version that's apparently very good, and I'm gonna get it. So, yeah. In any event, thank you very much for joining me on this little show and tell. I hope you enjoyed it. Throw me a like if you did. Subscribe, I might be doing stuff like this moving forward. You got any vinyl you like? Leave a comment, or don't. We can make this as interactive as you want. I'm going to leave links to all of these albums streaming below. I'll also leave some links for the vinyl if I find any in stock. So wherever, I don't know if they're over there. I don't know where they put the links now. I'm not that big on YouTube yet. So let's see how that goes. Thank you very much for joining me once again. Hope you have a great week, great night, great day, whatever. And yeah, be the change you want to see in the world, unless that changes a nickel.